I got Mike here. So, about what a day on Friday, and yes, the market continues to sell down. And there was a chart which I'll show you now. I showed you on Tuesday or Wednesday, and there was a couple options, right, that was going to happen here with a certain indicator, and we need to see what was going to happen. Well, they're kind of choosing it, but believe it or not, we're still in this like, because you got trend lines that are getting stressed, but they don't want to break. Some sectors are breaking that. Pretty much, you're seeing a lot of gains, if not all of them, giving back from that crazy pump from post-election, right? And so tomorrow we're getting a really detailed charts on a lot of different stuff, but I will show you something today, as well as that presidential gap that everybody keeps talking about, because one index almost completely filled it. The other one is just like tipping its toe, right? So the question is, which one are they going to be looking at? Plus, with your questions today, we'll go into Palantir, MU, what was the other one? Somebody was asking about Marvel. And then we'll get into like Santa Claus rallies and all this other fun stuff, golden crosses on certain stocks. And so you had some good ones, so we'll get into them. But let's start off with the chart, which I showed you either on Tuesday and Wednesday, and show you what happened in the market yesterday and where it could be going. But you can see, I mean, obviously the market took a dump on everybody's portfolios if you were long on Friday, or in calls, that's for sure. But when you look, this was the chart I pulled up Tuesday or Wednesday, and I pulled up Stochastic for you, and we said, okay, here we're getting this cross right here. Now either one or two things is going to happen, and it was going to be this maybe, or when you got that sell down, this scenario over here was going to flip back up. Okay, now when you look at this, which scenario we're going to get? Right now we're getting this one, and you think, oh man, we're going down. We're going down. We did over here. Could be the case, if the trend line breaks, all that fun stuff. This can still flip up, and this market has fooled us many times over, right? You can get that right there, and you go, oh boy, and we'll watch to see if the trend line breaks. But when we get into it, tomorrow, you see the real detailed stuff of what's happening. And these charts, I think, will make more sense, because right now we didn't break that trend line or anything like that, and come down, and we did almost fill that presidential gap, which we'll show tomorrow. And so, we're looking at this, and normally when you have like, on the weekly especially, it's a very powerful. That's why I showed the weekly, because people say, well man, we're going all the way down to this trend line 412, which would be 15%, which means basically we're going to start going to a crash, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, man, looking at this economic data and stuff, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, here's the daily right here. You can see rolled over on the daily right there, came down to about mid-level, again starting to fill the gap right there. There you got it. It was a 3.5% pullback. Right now, currently sitting almost 4% pullback, right? And that's what this is right now, is a pullback, which still is normal as of now. And you kind of feel like we've been this way. Man, the member was talking about this, where it's like, is it all on Nvidia's shoulders once again, right? Is it going to be the one that absolutely saves the day? That's what we got to figure out. I'm going to adjust this trend line just a little bit, but you can see we have not broke that yet. And then of course there's this chart right here, and we talked about in last Saturday's video, and somebody asked about bearish divergence. Like, yeah, you got bearish divergence. It's been going on, seems like forever now. And then you will, most likely get a pullback or something like that. Could be worse. But we talked about, we saw it before. You got a 4 to 5% pullback, maybe 3%, that kind of stuff. And so here we are on this. Does it continue to go down? That's what you got to find out, right? And so right now we are getting that pullback. If the market doesn't like Nvidia earnings, it just say we're selling it down, right? Because we almost gave back pretty much all the presidential election stuff, right? When the market was going absolutely insane, then it's going to do it. Okay, it's just the way it is. And the Nvidia has a huge number they have to hit. I mean, it's crazy. I think revenue's got to be up like 85% year over year or something like that. Some crazy mess. But, they're going to do what they want to do. We've seen it many times. Even if the company earnings aren't bad at all and they're good, if they're going to sell us down, they're going to sell us down. You can try to predict that all you want. That's why I say take it level by level. Try to look and see, what you're looking at here. Because you can see, right now, if we come down, right, we hadn't filled the inflation gap on the S&P. It started to inch into it. The Q's almost filled it completely, right? Which one's going to lead is going to be the question. But when you look at this, if we do come down, right, let's say to this trend line, that's the 0.79 fib, election gap is filled. It will be a huge bounce, a very powerful bounce most likely. Plus you got your 50 moving average sitting in that area. I'm going to get rid of this 200 and you see what I'm talking about. And so that will be an enormous, powerful bounce right there, most likely, right? Now, is that going to happen? We don't know yet. because the Qs is filling this gap. So which one's it going to go with? Oh, the Qs, we're going to go with that one. Now we'll get a bounce and see what happens. Or we're going to continue to sell off, and the S&P is going to lead the way down to that area. And that's only like a 4 or 5% pullback. So, you know, and this was the question right here was like, hey, Mike, I love the non-biased channel. Could you please do a bear case? Right now, that is the bear case, because you're seeing this data come in, you know, and it's, I mean, I couldn't believe it. The manufacturing data that came out Friday, and the sales data once again. And so the real thing that's happening now is you're getting this pullback, because all of a sudden they're going, wait a minute, we're going to continue to get rate cuts here? You know, that's really the big thing. And then we're going to get into the 10-year, and this one right here, because somebody just asked this question, which was a good one. Mike, can you explain how interest rates and the 10-year Treasury yield works? From my understanding, it doesn't matter if interest rates are dropped if the 10-year Treasury yield rises. And that is absolutely true. And I'm going to show you right here. You can do this in TradingView, you know, if you want to, but here's the 10-year right here. Let me show you what follows the 10-year. Let's pull up, and you can see what's going. It just keeps hanging in that high range right there, which won't break, right? Well, look at mortgage rates. And what do you see? Wow, like twinsies, don't they? So mortgage rates follow it. The lending rates you get at banks, things, they follow it. And so, of course, that puts pressure on what? Companies and everybody else who's trying to get money. All right, especially people trying to get money right here. And so that's a problem. It's a problem for the real estate industry. And here's what we'll do. Exactly what you said. We'll pull up the Fed funds rate. We'll see where the Fed funds rate has gone. And we'll see which one's following which. And you can just pull this up again, all on the same chart, and you go, hey, looky there. Well, looks like one's going down and the other two are going up. They've been cutting, and it really hadn't mattered, right? And so, yes, the lending rates, especially like the mortgage rates, things like that, do not follow the Fed funds rate. Now, what you probably got from your banks, though, or something maybe, let me know if you got these in the comments, saying we're going to lower your savings account rate, because they will follow the Fed funds rate and screw you, but not the lending rate, as you can see right there. And so what does it also do? Puts pressure on small companies. IWM, right? It's a big one. TLT doesn't like it, okay? And you can see, even though the Fed funds rate got, you know, it got decreased right there, came down, and you saw IWM was like, oh, this is great. I'll go up, because the 10-year was going down with it. See how the 10-year is going down with it? And all of a sudden, the 10-year just started taking off. And it's okay if it's going up. It's just when it gets to a certain point and people start freaking out, going, wait a minute, is this thing fixing to really continue to go higher? And so, and that's what puts pressure on this. And you can clearly see in this chart right here, if you look, an inverse relationship between IWM and the 10-year when it gets to a certain point. Okay, I mean, you can see it, right? It looks like that shark, Jaws, right? You see that right there? And so, you know, we're going to see how this goes. If it wasn't for the election bump, I believe IWM would have traded sideways or continued to go down. Remember, it was going down before the election bump. And so it's almost gave all of that back now. And so we just got to see if this is going to continue to go up or not, because remember, the yield curve is inverted and stuff like that. And it's trying to tell us something. You know, we just don't know what that is yet. So I hope that helps. Now, Jim says, how would you describe the structure of Palantir stock chart? Good or thin or other? Well, that's a good question. I was talking to some people about that. Well, if you look at it here, this is what amazes me about Palantir. 120% above its 200-day moving average now. I mean, it's just amazing. It is a squeeze upon squeeze. And I'll show you something very neat that's happening right now. You can see the farthest it ever been is 98%. And that was on an uptrend, by the way. And you can see what happened afterwards. Because remember, these moving averages are like rubber bands. And right now, money's just flowing in that. And there's something else that could keep the band going, you know, keep this whole move going that came out on Friday. I'll show you as well. But this is a squeeze. Just look at that. There's no other way you can put it. That is a squeeze, right? Straight up. That's what it is. And when we pull out, we literally have to go to the hourly to try to find like support if we decide to actually one day sell down, which it will. All of them come down, right? And you can see right there, I mean, it's pretty plain today. If this thing comes down right there at 59.78, somewhere in there, would probably be support, 59.15. And then from there, I mean, that's not support. So if it ever did drop like that, then you got a nice little move coming down. What needs to happen is it does need to consolidate and let the moving averages set up. Because remember, they are like rubber bands. It always happens. And no stock or anything is immune to it. And when you pull the fibs, I mean, just to go from where this move started, just to even get to the 0.5 fib is like 53.45. That's to the discount, right? For people who like to buy at discounts. And what's really interesting about this one, if you pull up Tesla, you know, guess what? They look pretty darn identical, don't they? They are moving in tandem, right? If you threw Nvidia on here, you would see the polar opposite, right? They are moving like, as I was telling somebody, a married couple dancing right now. They're identical. You saw Friday, huge sell-off. What was up big time? Tesla and Palantir, especially Palantir, was like double digits at one point in time. And there was something for that. There was news that came out. But right now they're synced. All right, they're synced. Kind of like Square and Bitcoin were at one point in time. But when you look over here, what happened? It's getting added to the NASDAQ. That's why I say when you get this right here, it's not happening until November 26th. Those funds have to now buy. Right, Palantir to put in all those ETFs and all that fun stuff. And so I also said this could keep on going. It's just when it does pull back, it will be a really nice pullback. That's just the way it is. No stock's ever been immune to it. And don't try to predict it because everybody's been trying to short this thing too and been getting wrecked, right? So that hopefully that helps out on Palantir. Next one says, Richard says, hey, can you review Marvel and MU? Sure can if you look over here. And I'll try to go over these both fairly quickly. But when you look over at MU here, you can clearly see needs momentum to turn back up. Coming down into support, did fill this gap right here. Got a trend line right there below it. We'll pull up some other indicators here. Let's pull up the RSI, see what that's looking like, and our MACD. We'll get rid of the stochastic up here so we can see it. And you can see on the daily, bears are in charge right now with the RSI below 50. The MACD is starting to cross down below that zero line, which is not good, so it needs to turn back up. I'm going to get rid of this trend line over here. It's been how long since I've actually looked at this chart for crying out loud. But you can see it's got trend line below it for support if it needs it. We're at horizontal support right now. And so, you know, can it fall? Absolutely. I mean, that's what's happening to semis right now for sure. But right now you got that trend line between 87 and 90 if it does fall right there. We'll pull at the moving averages. Just broke the 50, below the 200. So, you know, none of that's good right there. But you need to hope this support holds. And again, what's going to lift all boats? The reason why you have to be careful looking at these and try to make any predictions is you got Nvidia reporting earnings. Nvidia lifts all boats every time on earnings. And if it sinks, the whole thing is coming down with it. That's just the way it is. We've talked about this multiple times. Then we pull up the stochastic, just go the weekly at a higher time frame. You can see it's rolling over, right? So you need to get a flip back up. That's what just needs to happen right now. Momentum's just not in its favor right now. And so it could continue to drop. When you go over here and look at Marvel, you see something very similar right there. Weekly stochastic, it's getting a bearish cross on right there. It's coming down. Actually does look a little better than MU, by the way, just FYI. You can see on the daily, the momentum already rolled over. That's why it's been coming down. But, you know, when we pull out, I'm going to get rid of this right here. Even farther, you know, and start putting some trend line and everything else in there. I've actually never even examined this chart before. We're just doing it now. You can see right there, that was previous all-time high. So it broke that. Now coming back down, we're going to see if it can hold it. You can see on the moving averages, you know, it looks pretty good, right? Above the 50, above the 200. And so that's pretty darn good. We come over here to our VRVP, which is volume range, volume profile. You can see clearly what the support is going to be. I'm going to put a line in here for you to see this. If it does come down, around 75 is going to end up being the support right there. And I'll put another one in around $82. And so if this comes down, that's kind of the levels to look for, right? 82, 75. And then, of course, you know, again, this is just set a new all-time high, so we can continue to go up if we get good news next week. You got a trend line right here, clearly you can see. So you'll have that as well if it decides to come down and everything. So this one looks actually a lot better than MU. So looking at this chart, and I'm just looking at this like as you ask this question, and I'm kind of looking at this thing going, okay, you know, so I got my levels, got trend line support on it, it's above the moving averages. And so what you're really looking to see is, you know, do we come up here and get a bounce off the trend line? Do we come that far down? And then if we don't do that, do we end up breaking down, coming down to support? Maybe this becomes resistance then, or we come all the way down here, right, and then start to move back up. So that's really the three scenarios I've been looking for. Again, a lot of this is going to ride on Nvidia, guys. That's just the truth. And the next one comes from Dr. Marcus saying, just wondering, when do Santa rallies generally start? How long do they last? And how often do they occur historically? Now, when you look at it, they actually don't really start, and not supposed to start till like the last 5 days of December and then the first part of January normally. But what you're seeing now is them starting earlier, right? So you can see it start in November, you can see it start in the beginning of December. So it just really depends on what the market's doing at that time, right? Like right now we're pulling back, right? Maybe setting up for that. And so, you know, I wouldn't so much focus on a Santa rally, so to speak. It's really November, right? So November starts the best 6 months of the U.S. stocks. And so we'll see if that's going to end up being the case or not. But that's technically when it's supposed to start. I hope that helps. Last one here says, do you see any golden crosses setting up, tracking the data you send out in the news brief where the 200 moving average is higher than the 50 moving average, but gaining? Leads me to think there's got to be some forming out there right now? And the answer is yeah, right? You just got to find them. Like Arcade just had one, Roku just had one, Square just had one. And so, you know, and the leaders, of course, are not going to be having any of those going unless we get a major pullback. But what are you seeing? You're seeing a lot of stocks start to pull down right now. So now is the time to look in there, pull up your 50 and 200 and see if you get any golden crosses. But here's the thing to be careful about. That's what I was kind of showing members. Just because something has a golden cross, which is the 50 crossing up over the 200, does not mean it's going to go up from there. So a lot of people like to see golden crosses, they go, I'm buying call options, and then the stock just goes down 20%, right? You have to pull up each stock. Like if you look at Square, the majority of its golden crosses, it's gone down, right, for the next 5 to 10 days, whatever it is. You pull up ARK, that thing just goes. And it has a golden cross, whew, it goes, man. And so they're all different. So you have to go back and look, and don't just go, oh, just because, you know, you got a golden cross, you know. And but if you're buying the stock itself, right, you're buying shares, and if it goes down, you can just dollar cost average in. It is a bullish thing, okay, but it's more bullish when you're actually the stock is turning into an uptrend, okay, not just going sideways. So that's where you got to be careful and stuff when you're looking at that stuff. So hopefully that helped, guys. Again, tomorrow's video we'll do a lot more detailed stuff on the charts to set up the week. Got a lot of earnings coming into, getting a lot more earnings on what? Retail. So that's going to kind of let us know, because they keep saying we're spending, right? Let me know what you're seeing in your area, if that is the case or not. I'm sure it's different in different areas of the country, but it'll tell us a lot about us and future rate cuts and all that fun stuff. So anyway, hope you got something out of it. Please hit the like, subscribe button if you did. Think about signing for the membership. That's everything you get with it for less than a McDonald's combo. And I will see you guys later.